Yo, what's going on, GameLeapers? This is the Jizz, and today we have a banger video for you because some of the changes for 12.3 have been leaked by some of the Riot devs on Twitter, and some of these are definitely going to change the meta landscape for 12.3 and our choices when it comes to champion selection, and also what we're going to build in the game. So in this video, we'll be talking about the 11 big buffs and nerfs coming in for next patch, so make sure you stick around for the whole video, and as always, to get the most out of League of Legends in Season 12, make sure you head over to the GameLeap website and get signed up for exclusive access to up to 20 videos a week that are made and designed by our challenger players and coaches, so check out those links in the description and comment section. Now let's get into the 12.3 leaks, and the first big change that is actually live right now is that there is no more Chemtech Drake, and whoever decided this, Arito, definitely deserves a raise because this Drake was just so unhealthy for the game. A camouflage around the red buffs and the soul point, which is giving you a free Guardian's Angel, it was just so broken and impossible to balance, so the balance team removing this, well done, but you kind of do question who on earth put this in the game in the first place. Now moving on to the only champion leak we have, and this is coming to Senna, and Senna is being targeted all because of the buff that came into 12.2, because really it's a bit too overpowered. A 20% slow on your piercing darkness, like that is a significant amount, and it can be very oppressive and just uninteractive to deal with in the bot lane because you can never really get onto her. So what Riot are doing are cutting the slow in half, down from 20% to 10%, and they're also reducing the slow scaling off your AD and AP. This is definitely a step in the right direction, but we'll have to see if it's still a bit too annoying for the general player base. And Senna mains, let me know in the comments what you think of this nerf. Now coming in next, guys, we've got 3 mythic items to talk about for 12.3, and these are Goredrinker, Divine Sunderer, and Trinity Force. So first up with Goredrinker, what's happening is that the AD in the item is going up 5 from 45 to 50, the haste is going up to 25 from 20, but the HP is getting reduced to 300 from 450. This 150 HP change, to be honest, is the big nerf here, and the AD increase, it's kind of nice, the haste is kind of nice, but it's nowhere near as impactful as the HP you're now losing once you get to this mythic spike. This means as well that because you're going to be healing based off your missing HP, because you've got less HP because of this nerf, the active is not going to heal you as much. So for champions like Aatrox, Riven, Fiora, any Goredrinker abuser in the top lane, this is definitely going to hurt. Despite getting a bit more attack damage and ability haste, they really do pale in comparison to the HP nerf. Now as for Trinity Force, this is getting a straight up buff. So the HP is increasing by 100 from 200 to 300. And Trinity Force at the moment isn't really built all that much. As a Sheen option, Divine Sunderer is by far the most popular one, but Trinity Force on attack speed split pushes, so if we think about a champion like Trundle, maybe Jax, who might want to use this in the future, this definitely brings the item back into contention, and it would be really nice to see this build more. And this is also why Riot, I think, have targeted Divine Sunderer as well for an overall nerf. So the AD is increasing by 5 from 35 to 40, which is nice, but the HP is going down 100 from 400 to 300, and just like the Goredrinker, this is really the big detail here. So for champions in the top lane who are going Divine Sunderer, so Jax, Camille, Nasus, etc., these champions are definitely going to have to consider going Trinity Force instead of Divine Sunderer in 12.3 if these changes do hit the rift. So what about the rest of the changes? What's happening here? Well, we've got 6 legendary item buffs and nerfs that are hitting the rift in 12.3, and pretty much every single one of these items, by the way, is built by the top laners in this game. And of course, some bruiser, tankier junglers might build these items, and there might be some other champions who might dabble in these 6 items. So first up, we have Death's Dance, and this is a really interesting one. So what's happening is the damage stored via the passive for ranged champions, this is going down to 10%. And there's also another change here in terms of your Defy passive. So the heal is going to be based off your bonus AD, no longer your max HP. So for those fighters and bruisers in the top lane who are building lots of attack damage, they are going to be rewarded more with this healing buff. But what isn't actually documented here, guys, for Death's Dance is that the item is also going to take into account magic damage as well. So no longer just physical. This means that this item is really going to rival Steris Gauge in terms of team fighting because you're going to absorb all forms of damage now, not just attack damage. And at the moment, people really build Death Stands for the 1v1 or because there's a lot of attack damage on the enemy team. So definitely some interesting changes for DD in 12.3. Now let's move on to one of those items I just mentioned, Steris Gauge, because this is also getting changed. So what's happening here, and just listen to this, Steris Gauge is no longer giving you 50 attack damage, nothing at all. The only stat it's giving you is 400 HP, that is it. But instead what it's giving you is a new passive called the Claws That Catch. So as you can see, you're gaining 40% of your base attack damage as bonus attack damage. So if we think about that in terms of even Death's Dance, the bonus attack damage now you're getting from Steris Gauge's passive, this is going to synergize really well with the new healing from Death's Dance, which is based off your bonus attack damage. And this is really going to be good for those bruisers and fighters who have high base attack damage stats. So for a champion like Darius, for example, who has a very very high base damage stat. This is really going to come into the fray, but really only in the mid to late game. In the early game, this is definitely a nerf, but let's face it, you're not going to be getting Asterisk Gauge as your first item. So getting this as a second item, potentially around level 13, 14, 15, this is where the game is transitioning into the late game. So to be honest, if you are a champion that is going to be building attack damage and relies on that statistic to be able to do your work, then Asterisk Gauge as a late game item is actually going to give you more offensive power. Now the other change to Asterisk Gauge is the fact that the shield is going to be scaling off your bonus HP. So from items, runes, and your level ups, this is what it's going to be based off, no longer your max HP. So basically what's happening to Sterex is that this is a revert to the season 10 Sterex, just without the tenacity when your lifeline passive procs. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of the Sterex change. This is definitely going to impact a lot of champions in 12.3. Now next up, we have to talk about Blade of the Ruined King. So all you Jax and Aurelia players, I know you're listening very closely here, and what's happening is that the cost is increasing by 100 gold to 3,300, and the health damage you deal to enemy champions is increasing for both melee champions and ranged champions. So really, this just makes the item a much better tank shredder. So if the enemy team has a lot of tanks and a lot of HP in there, Blade of the Ruined King, for it to cost an extra 100 gold, honestly, this just looks worth if you're playing a melee or ranged champion building this item, because you will be shredding them quicker and taking them down quicker as well. Now next up, we have Ravenous Hydra, and for a champion like Camille and even Corki at the moment, who's building this with Luden's Tempest, you should know that the AD is getting increased to 70 from 65. So for all you Corki abusers out there, no nerfs, this is great, and if you play Camille, we'll just keep on building Ravenous Hydra. Because of this buff, you're going to hit harder, you're going to clear waves quicker, you're just going to be able to get more golden experience in 12.3. Now we've got two more items to talk about here, guys, and if you are enjoying these Season 12 update videos, let us know by leaving a like down below. And the second to last item we have to talk about is Black Cleaver. So for Black Cleaver, at this moment on the PBE, the AD is increasing by 5, from 40 to 45. The haste is increasing by 5 from 25 to 30. This looks very much like the Death Stance buff, but the HP is going down by 100 from 450 to 350. And to be honest, when I look at these changes, I'm really thinking about a champion like Urgot, who builds Black Cleaver with Titanic Hydra because of the HP you're getting, which was 450. It harmonizes really well with Titanic Hydra's passive, which is converting your bonus HP into bonus AD now. So the fact that these items are losing HP means that Titanic Hydra in the top lane, so for any bruiser building this item, it is just losing a bit of value here. And I'm guessing that's the reason why Riot are looking to buff Ravenous Hydra, because it really isn't built that much in comparison to its counterpart Titanic. So a bit more offense in the item is nice, but did you really need this in Black Cleaver? You're really building it for the armor reduction passive, so if the enemy team again has a lot of tankiness, a lot of armor, you can shred them with Black Cleaver, and also the movement speed you get for champions like Urgot and Darius. Some top laners, they lack a lot of mobility and can get kited. So the AD increase and the haste increase, yeah, it looks kind of nice, but you are losing HP, and because it's such an important stat in the top lane, particularly with how well it works with Titanic, this just looks like an overall nerf for the BC. Now the last item change that is most likely going to hit the rift, guys, on 12.3, this is coming into Hexdrinker and more of Malmortius. So for Hexdrinker, the changes on the PBE, the AD is increasing by 5. I think I've said that for every item in this video, and the magic shield is changing to 83 to 210 for ranged champions. So the current iteration that is live on League of Legends at the moment is that the shield applies to all champions, melee and ranged champions, so there is now a range distinction here for Hexdrinker. So if you're playing a champion like Corki, this has actually become pretty popular, or even Ezreal, who might make use of this lifeline passive, the shield is going to be smaller, but the AD you're getting, you are going to hit a little harder. Now as for more of Malmortius, the price is increasing by 100 gold, the AD is increasing by 5, there we go again, and the haste is also increasing by 5, dear me. But there are a few more details here. So the magic shield, this is now going to scale with bonus AD for melees and ranged champions. So again, there's a distinction here, and the range base shield is reducing to 150 from 200. So for ranged champions, this might not look that good, but what might look good is the fact that when the lifeline passive procs and you get the shield, it is granting 12% omnivamp. So this means from any form of damage, attack damage, magda damage, or even true damage, you are going to be healing off of this damage. So to be honest, for a champion like Corki, who is building this item an awful lot at the moment, and even like I said, a champion like Ezreal, because these spellcasters, once you do get more of Malmortius, which is probably going to be in the late game, their cooldowns are going to be so short, and they will be healing a heck of a lot in the late game. So this will make it a lot more challenging to actually finish these champions off. So those are the 11 changes, guys, that have been leaked for 12.3. Let me know in the comments any of your thoughts or ideas on these changes that were mentioned. And as always, so you don't miss any of our daily Season 12 content, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until tomorrow's daily video, this has been the Cheers.